Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Kenny, and this is How to Get Away with Murder, Season 2, Episode 3. So, let's just get right into it. Uh, it opens up, back at the Hostel estate, um, where, the crew, Wes, Laurel, Michaela, and Connor are running out of the house, and Annalise is still laying on the floor bleeding out. We actually see that Nate is in the car driving, and he actually calls Annalise, but Annalise is unable to pick up because her phone is on top of a table and she's laying on the ground, and she tries to reach out for it but can't get to her phone. And Nate's pretty much saying Nate leaves a message that he hopes that she's okay, but we all know that she's not. Then it goes back to 7 weeks earlier, where Annalise is working in the office. She's drunk as hell. She's eating a bunch of, she's pretty much grubbing, and she's doing a recording on the recorder about the Hestel case, but then also about, certain things she wants done as far as, she even makes a recording saying that, Frank, give me an update on Nate or you're fired. So So she's pretty much, making this recording about the Hastow case, about, the actual map out of the case, and then next thing you know, we see that Eve sends her an email, kind of play flirting with her. I mean, obviously Eve is still thinking about the apple juice they drank last season, and she's reminding Annalise of that. She's like, well, I'm not proposing to you, girl, just saying. And she kind of laughs at that. So it was a cute little short moment. Then we see, Annalise is so drunk she can barely get up the steps. She got her vodka in tow and is completely just turned the fuck up. Next thing you know, she passes out in bed, only to be awakened by a loud thump. And she immediately, it's like the whole drunken, stupor that she was in, she immediately snapped out of that, grabbed something, and went downstairs to find, if somebody intruded inside of her house. And she goes downstairs, and she's pretty much scared, and it comes to find out that it was actually only a rat in the basement. But not knowing that someone actually did intrude the house, but then we find that out later. She pretty much calls Wes over. Wes comes and takes care of it, and they have a discussion, pretty much about Rebecca, and do you want to find her, and all of that stuff, and it's okay if you miss her and everything like that, and then she sends Wes off, to tell him that he needs to get some sleep before class. But thank you for coming out to help me, because she was pretty much afraid, and she called Wes. Then it goes into her doing a lecture, and the lecture is on sex. And she's saying that, what does sex have to do with law? Everything. So we actually know this is going to be an interesting episode. And we actually see, so we actually see that Ashley gets a text, from Sinclair saying, thank you for tonight. And he goes to see Bonnie, and, he's actually late seeing Bonnie, but him and Bonnie get it in, for old time's sake. Then it also shows, Connor and Oliver, eating breakfast, and Connor's making Oliver breakfast, saying that, it's almost the D-Day. And we all know what the D is. Yeah. And then they also show Laurel and Frank having a conversation. She's still bothered that he put her out in the last episode when, he got her out of her skin and, turned her on but then dismissed her. But she's saying, like, I'm over it, and then he tells her that really the thing is you're just afraid of getting to know me, because if you did know who I was, you would fall for me. And from that point on, it goes into the actual case that Annalise is working on. It's a case about this woman Tanya who runs this like sex club called Euphoria Circle. You know, where they have these elusive sex parties where it can get raunchy and kinky. And what happens is that she's on trial for involuntary manslaughter of this man named Dominic, who pretty much had a heart attack, you know, during sex, and pretty much the accusations is that she was too rough with him and that she pushed him too hard that he had a cardiac arrest. On the stand is this guy, Mr. Holt, who is the financier who helped her purchase the building, you know, for this place. And he's thinking at first it's supposed to be a place of like healing and relaxation, but turns out it was actually a sex club. But then it also comes to light that Mr. Holt himself has had relations with Tanya, and that, you know, he explains that she got extremely rough and started choking him and doing all of that stuff. And, you know, the lawyer immediately goes off, you know, the prosecuting attorney immediately goes in, oh yeah, exactly what she did to Dominic, and that's why he's now left his wife and 2 children alone, you know, because of her recklessness and her dominating ways in the bedroom. So after this, you know, Tanya's upset, you know, saying that, oh, he's a damn liar. He just doesn't want to admit that he's submissive. And it's like, yeah, but you're also proving that you're dominant, so that actually works for them. That you're a dominant sexual deviant, and pretty much you drive people beyond their limits, quote and unquote. And Annalise tells her that, look, if you really want to win your case, I need the list of everybody who was at that party that night. And she's like, oh no, our people are confidential. You know, I will never release that. So Annalise just bluntly asks her, do you want to save your business, or do you want to go to prison for being a negligent slut? What you gonna do? So old girl gave up that list. So she actually sends the team to actually go and talk to all of these people to see if they will actually testify on Tanya's behalf. And we see all of them talk to different people, and nobody is willing to testify because, you know, this is a sex party that's a confidential, you know, it's pretty much an underground sex party. So these people, some of these people that go to the sex party are married with children, or you know, or people who are successful, and they don't want their reputations tarnished. I mean, one of them was a school teacher, you know, and no one would back down. But the guy the woman that Connor was talking to, named Alicia, she actually invites him to a party. But then when it came down to him asking her to testify for Tanya, she said, "Oh, I would rather go to jail." So nobody is backing down. Nobody is willing to testify on her behalf. You know. So while they're discussing all of this with Annalise is furious because she's saying that, look, you guys have been doing this the longest, but it's like the worse you get at it along the way. You know, how is it that you can't get anyone to testify? You know, why is it that no one is willing to step up and actually, you know, testify on her behalf? Why are you guys not doing your job? And then she's interrupted when Bonnie gives her something, you know, and this promptly sends her to the Hastill estate, her with the team in tow, and they go in and they pretty much blow off the headmistress to talk to Caleb and Catherine, because actual cover story about them having an incestual relationship has now been put out there. And immediately she goes in like, but he's like, well, our parents just died and I was comforting her. She's like, oh really? That's not how I comfort my siblings. So, and she's like, well, why are they here? I mean, that's what Catherine was saying. Like, well, why are they here? She's like, well, they are pretty much your jury, and now everybody's going to see is you guys were having a sexual relationship. Your parents found out about it and decided to cut you out of the will, and that's the reason why you killed them. So really, right now, you guys look really bad. And he's like, well, this is not true. She's like, well, how do I know you're not lying to me again? I mean, you've lied before. How I know you're not lying to me now about this? That you guys aren't fooling around, and that the reason why you killed your parents is because your parents knew about you two messing around when you're supposed to be brother and sister, but yet you're having sex with each other. So Caleb immediately gets enraged and is like, I dare you. You begged us to hire you. So either you actually believe us when we're telling you the truth, or we'll find a lawyer who can. So I'm like, wow. We can see that Caleb is very aggressive and that he's very domineering, which pretty much kind of paints him out that, yeah, he's pretty much one of the main people who could possibly commit murder because he's such a hothead. And you could tell, like, Annalise is looking at him like, really? So then it goes back to, they're back at Annalise's house, and the crew is joking about the whole incestual relationship between Caleb and Catherine, and they're saying like, yeah, I would do him. I mean, look at those eyes, because Caleb does have beautiful eyes. So they were kind of kikiing about that, but then it was also kikiing about other relationships and things like that, and eventually, while they're goofing off, Annalise walks up and saying like, oh, so we're having a conversation about our sex lives, I see. But then Connor actually shows her that we do have a lead about this sex party. We're actually going to go there. She's like, okay, great. Finally, somebody's doing their job, and walked off. So pretty much we see that Frank and Annalise have a conversation, and they think that St. Clair was the one who planted the photo of Caleb and Catherine and sent it to the press. And she pretty much tells Frank, okay, find out how she got it. She also discovers that her recorder is missing, and when she, pretty much finds out, when she actually finds out that, that when she asks to update on Nate, he tells her that, oh, it's just same old, he's just been at home and going visiting his sick wife in the hospital. But is he back on the force? She's like, oh no, the police department don't want nothing to do with him. So what Annalise does is that she finds the list that Tanya gave her, forges the name of the daughter of the lieutenant, and then goes and gives it to the lieutenant, and that, do you want this to get out, because this is going to be a big case, and when this gets out and all these things get exposed, do you want to know that your daughter was a part of that? So he's like, okay, what do you want? And she said a job. So she pretty much used that to get Nate his job back. Typical Annalise. Conniving and smooth all at the same time. Then it goes, pretty much Connor actually takes Michaela to go to the sex party, because the girl Alicia he pretty much told Alicia that he was gay, and she's like, oh great, you're just perfect for my husband. So, because both her and her husband are bisexual, so he goes there with Michaela, and they meet Alicia and her husband, and obviously they make some exchange, and Michaela's like, okay, we have to leave now, but then Alicia's like, oh no, stay, the fun is just beginning, and she's like, I'll stay only if you testify, on Tanya's behalf. And they both was like, oh no, that's not gonna happen. And she was like, but she can go to jail. And she's like, and then like Alicia's husband was like, well, maybe that's good. It's like, how could you say that? I mean, like, come on, baby. I mean, after all, you did switch cars with her that night, right? It's like, whoa. They just got a new lead. That they actually, that Alicia and Tanya actually switched cars, so therefore Tanya could have went to Dominic and murdered him, and no one was suspected because people were thinking that Tanya was there all night, but really she wasn't. So that was what Tanya did to kind of establish her alibi. So Annalise pretty much summons, Tanya to her house, and she says that, she knows that she killed Dominic, and she wants to know why. Why did you kill him? And she begins to tell him that she was in love with him and that he wouldn't leave his wife and kids, and, what she did is that she slipped him some nitroglycerin, and that combined with Viagra will give you a heart attack. And that she intentionally didn't mean to kill him, but she wanted him to be indisposed so that his wife will find out about it. So, and it's like, yeah, so the wife will find out and you two will live happily ever after. She's like, yeah, I didn't mean to kill him, but, I loved him more than anything. And Annalise completely flipped the fuck out, was like, no, you love yourself more than anything. You talk all this stuff about being free and modern, but really, you're just selfish. You're too afraid to deal. You're selfish, you're sad and alone, and you're too afraid to deal with it like the rest of us. And the sad thing about it is that people like you give people like us who love sex a bad name. Get the hell out. So, that was like the meat, Joe. Now we know that Tanya actually did murder Dominic because he wouldn't leave his wife and his kids, and she was in love with him, so she used that as a means to paralyze him so that his wife will find out about him, going to the sex parties and stuff, but it turns out the guy died, so now she really did commit involuntary manslaughter. So we actually go to see Frank and Laurel. They're actually out in some area. Frank is talking to some guy who's supposed to be giving him information about who gave Sinclair the photo, because they're still thinking right now Sinclair leaked the photo, and they're trying to figure out where did the source come from and who did she get it from. And while in the car, Frank and Laurel begin to talk. She wants Frank to open up and she wants to know more about him. But then when it comes down to the good, he has like this very well scripted, answers to everything. But when she asks him about the bad or the treacherous side of things, he shuts down. Next we see Asher meets up with Sinclair, and Sinclair gives Asher Annalise's recorder back. So then it goes to show you that thump that Annalise heard was actually Asher, who went to her house, who broke into her house to steal the recorder off of her desk to give to Sinclair, because Sinclair is now the prosecutor for the Hatstill case. So now she's trying to find out what Annalise is up to so she can kind of form her case, so she can kind of form her arguments around hers. So we see that's the angle that Sinclair is playing, that she's trying to take down Annalise at all costs. And then we also come to find out that she actually has something on Asher, which is why Asher continues to, Asher continues to do everything she says, even though he is totally against it, and he tells her, like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. And then she pretty much, brings up, well, what about the lake? And he's like, and he just immediately gets mad. So obviously something happened in the past with Asher that's very incriminating, and she's using this against him in order for him to feed her information in regards to Annalise in the Haskell case. So he's over it, and he pretty much thinks also that you're the one who leaked that photo to the press of Caleb and Catherine. Like, wow, you know, you really are trying to come for Annalise. You really are dirty. You really are trying to take her down. So eventually he just pretty much says, like, I'm done with this. I'm over it. You know, I'm tired of being your mole, and he walks off. So back at court, you know, Annalise and, you know, so back at court, you know, Tanya is, you know, they're pretty much, you know, still on trial. And Tanya's like, so what are you going to do? You're going to finally admit that I'm guilty? I mean, are you going to, you know, I mean, what are we going to do now that you know that I actually killed him? I mean, you know, how are we going to work this out? I mean, you know, and she's like, and Annalise is like, I never lose. So what we see her do in this case is that she pretty much says that the charges of involuntary manslaughter, you know, that was passed, but really this is premeditated first degree murder. And what she does is that she flips it on Dominic's wife, you know, and you can definitely tell she's very emotionally, you know, disheveled from the loss of her husband. They have 2 boys together. She gets on the stand, and what she does is she knew about her husband being on Viagra, but then, you know, nitroglycerin, which is a high blood pressure medication, you know, combine them, you would get a heart attack. So she pretty much, you know, pinned it on the wife and said that you knew your husband was cheating on you. You knew your husband was having affairs, and you personally, you know, drugged him because you were mad and you were pissed that your husband was cheating on you. You're the real murderer in this courtroom. And she goes in and makes the wife break down. So by that, you know, Tanya got off. And Tanya is so sick that happened that she ends up getting sick. And you know, as soon as she comes out the bathroom, Annalise is like, you feel better? She's like, why would you do that? You know, you practically ripped her to shreds on the stand in front of her children. She's like, look, I did my job. You know, you know, you're not in jail. You can go back to living your life, and they're not going to charge the wife. And Tanya has the nerve to ask Annalise, how do you sleep at night? Am I thinking, really, bitch? You got the nerve to say some shit like that when you actually killed this man because he wouldn't leave his wife and children, and you killed him for your own selfish intent, and you got a nerve to ask her how she sleeps at night? It was cute, though. But I love Annalise's response because it was just the shade of it all. She's like, because Tanya asked her, how do you sleep at night? And she said, alone, on very comfortable sheets. I was like, yes, Annalise, serve this bitch. She had the nerve to ask a question like that, like, bitch, how can you sleep at night knowing that you killed the man? I got you off. And she's saying that, first of all, you need to be thinking about the gift you're gonna give me for the fact that that now that you're a free woman. And she's like, I like an expensive box of vodka. And walk the fuck off. So next we see that Sinclair is still sending Asher text messages, and she sends him a message about Charter Lake, and then a picture of this girl comes up, and Bonnie sees it, and she walks up on her, and she's like, oh, so, you know, that's the reason why you've been late all this time? And of course, Asher lies and says that, yeah, I met her in the library, and one thing led to another. She's like, it's okay. You know, I know what it is. It's probably better off that we no longer mess around because we do work together, and it is what it is. And she walked off. And you can tell Asher is bothered by it because I think he really has feelings for Bonnie. But, Bonnie's had it because he's been late, he's been dodging her, so now she's thinking it's because he's messing with another woman. So she kind of blacks off. And back at the house, Tanya has bought gifts for the entire crew, and also an invitation to come, to, another sex party, the address and everything. So she's left them a card and all these different bottles of, of like wine and liquor and all of that. And, while they're talking and going through the gifts and everything, they're talking about, sex and orgasms, and they bring up Levi. Now, Levi was the guy that Michaela and Connor met at the court in the previous episode, and he also went on a date with Michaela, Eggs 911. And they, Connor pulls up a picture of him like, Michaela, because Michaela has never had an orgasm, and we know that she previously was dating Aiden, who was actually gay, who's pretty much, was like kind of like closet, who pretty much was closetly gay, so she wasn't having great sex with Aiden, so she's never had an orgasm. And he's saying that, well, you need to get this man so he can kind of get that O spot running and dripping. And, they pass the picture around, and immediately Wes recognizes him from the picture that he has of the picture that he has in his apartment with him and Rebecca. So he immediately knows Rebecca, and he just puts two and two together like, oh, so now he's on to Michaela, so I'm going to find out what this is about. So they go to the next scene where Levi is on his way to Michaela's house because Michaela runs out. It's like, oh my God, he's supposed to be over in 30 minutes, and I told him I was supposed to cook something, and I haven't cooked anything. I gotta go. And sure enough, when he's on his way to her doorstep, Wes corners him and kind of grabs up on him. It's like, yo, what's up? He's like, oh, hey, Wes. So he knew exactly who Wes was, and he actually did, and Levi actually tells him that he actually says that Rebecca is actually Eggs, because when we were foster children, our foster father, made her lick eggs off the floor after she chopped a carton of eggs, and we've been calling her Eggs ever since. So we pretty much know that Levi is actually Rebecca's foster brother. He also tells her that he hasn't heard from her in a while and that he thinks that she's dead. And Wes is like, you don't know that. And he said that he talked to her the day before the 911 text, and that she pretty much said in the conversation that things were bad. She couldn't actually tell him exactly what was bad, but that things were not good. And she was saying that, it's obviously, and pretty much he also hints the fact that it's something that involves Annalise, that lawyer you guys work for, that, it's not good, and Wes pretty much threatens him and says that, either you stay away from Michaela or I'll tell Michaela who you truly are. And he says, and they pretty much make a deal. And they pretty much, make a deal or whatever. And, that's how that scene ends. Sorry about that, guys. So, they pretty much make a deal, and that's how that ends. So next we see Bonnie and Laurel getting tore up at the bar. The two women who did not like each other are now getting turned up at the bar, and they're talking about their men. She's talking about Asher, and then she's saying, like, here I was trying to break up you and Frank and all of that, but then here it is, I messed around with Asher, and what a fucking douchebag he was, that I didn't see it coming, and, because she's thinking that Asher's cheating on her. And, Laurel admits about, pretty much is trying to get information about Frank through Bonnie. It's like, oh, so that's why you brought me out, so you can try to fish me information about Frank. But she admits that she actually does like him. But she's saying that, hey, girl, men lie to us. We don't need to lie to each other. But one thing about it, we don't tell you guys anything. So you're gonna have to find that out on your own. And then next you see, we actually see next it goes back to Annalise and Frank. Frank gives her the recorder and said that he found it in Bonnie's office. So shit's about to hit the fan because it's like Bonnie can't win with Annalise whatsoever. And then he also lets her know who really leaked the photo, and that the person that leaked the photo was not Sinclair. It was the head mistress of the Hatstill estate, who pretty much, Frank and Annalise meet with her, and she says that I know it's true because I've been with them ever since they were babies. I've been with them their whole lives. So yeah, when that hit the fan, it shocked everybody. And she says that they did this. They're guilty. Because I came to work the next day and I knew that they had something to do with that. How they were tortured and mangled and how the way they were shot execution style. Yeah, I know that they did this. So then that gives Annalise the notion that, okay, brother and sister have an incestual relationship, parents found out about it, bye millions. So that was the reason why, they killed their parents. So all of a sudden, when she goes to Tanya's gift basket and she sees this, the actual address to the sex party, Annalise goes into her room, puts on that good wig, is looking at her Lord and Taylor dresses to see which one is going, accentuate her curves and goodies. So she's going out, but we don't know where she's going, but she's going out. And it also shows that, finally Connor and Oliver finally, have sex. At first, Connor lets him know that he tells Oliver that he went to a sex party. At first, Oliver gets pissed off, but he says that I didn't do anything. Michaela was there with me. She can pretty much tell you the truth that I didn't do anything at all, and I didn't want to. So it shows that Connor is really in love with Oliver, and they get it in. They actually show that Levi is still going to talk to Michaela anyway, and him and Michaela, pretty much get it in as well. And then we actually see that Asher, goes to his father for help, because his father is a well-respected judge, and he says that, Dad, I really need your help. I'm kind of in a situation right now, and I really need you. And he said it's about Tiffany, and Tiffany was the girl that was in the picture that Sinclair sent him on his phone, the one that Bonnie saw. So after we're seeing like Annalise try all these different dresses from Macy's and Lord & Taylor's, we actually see that she's actually going to see Nate. She goes in to check on Nate. Nate pretty much says, "Oh, so this is your way of you trying to get me a job of me trying to owe you something because I don't owe you shit and I'm not taking the job." And she's like, "No, that's not it. I just really want to make things right. I just want to make it right, and also that I miss you." And pretty much she kind of gives him that look. He gives her that look, and he tells her to go home. And he pretty much says that it's like he's not that I don't want to, but not right now. So we really see her tear up like, wow, Nate rejected her because Annalise came in with the intention of getting the D from Nate. And Nate was like, no D, bitch. This is not D-Day for you. And then after he shuts the door on Annalise, we actually see that Wes is in the apartment with Nate, and Nate tells him, I'm in. So obviously Wes has gone to Nate to find out what happened with Rebecca. And then the next thing you know, it actually ends with them hiding in the woods and Nate's driving. It follows back to 7 weeks later, at the Hassel estate with Annalise still bleeding out in the Hassel estate. But, Laurel, Michaela, Connor, and Wes are in the woods and they're trying to hide, and, Nate actually stops and actually spots them and actually tells them to get in the car. And they drive off. So that's how this season ends. But we actually see next episode, Annalise finally meets Nate's wife. So that's going to be pretty interesting while she's literally on her deathbed dying from cancer. Talk about being at the edge of your seat. And, I think like next week's episode is going to be explosive as well. But yeah, this was the episode, and wow, man, there's a lot of twists and a lot of turns, and it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. But definitely like this video, comment on it. Also subscribe to my channel because I'm going to be reviewing these shows on the regular, and I look forward to hearing back from you guys. So stay tuned, and I'll talk to you later.